everyone, and welcome back to Anyone Can Learn to Code. This screencast is a little different than the others, in that this one isn't so much about a particular programming concept as it is about an attitude, but it's a critical attitude one needs in order to learn to code. Previously, we demonstrated a method that an array has called delete. The delete method removes an item from the array. Let's open up IRB for an example. So let's take z equals an array of 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we type in z, we get back that array. Now let's delete the number 2 from that array. So z.delete 2. And now we look at z again. We see that 2 is now missing from the array, and all we have are the numbers 1, 3, and 4. So the delete method actually modifies the data from this array. And that may seem straightforward, but let's look at another example. Let's say O is an array of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now if you recall from a previous episode, the shuffle method takes the elements of an array and puts them in random order. So O.shuffle, we see gives a randomly ordered array of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's now 2, 1, 3, 5, 4. But now let's look at O again. And we see that O is still holding on to the original array in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how did O get back to be in numerical order? I thought we shuffled it. The answer is that the shuffle method does not alter the original data. It doesn't touch the array contained within the O variable. So what does it do? What it does is, it gives us a brand new array, a brand new piece of data that is a shuffled version of O. So it's not modifying the original array that the O variable is holding. It's making a copy of that array and then shuffling it. So what good is the shuffle method if it doesn't actually change the array? I thought we wanted a shuffled array. The answer is that this new array that it creates can still be stored in a variable. So we can say, for example, s equals O.shuffle. And now if we take s, that does contain the shuffled array, while O still contains the original array. One thing you can also do is overwrite the original O variable by doing O equals O.shuffle, which will first figure out what O.shuffle is, which will be a copy of the array which is then shuffled, and then it's going to store that back into the O variable. So now if we type in O, we see that we get the shuffled array. So the question is, how on earth are you supposed to know something like this? There are times that modifying the original data versus getting a modified copy of the original data may be critical. How do you know which methods actually modify the original data and which do not? The answer is as follows. By just looking at the method names, you cannot necessarily figure out which method does what. Some human came up with these methods and their names and decided somewhat arbitrarily which methods do what. So how do you and I find out which methods modify the original data and which don't? The easiest and surest way to find out is with experimentation. What do I mean by experimentation? So let's say you just find out about this awesome method that arrays have called reverse that reverses the order of the elements of your array. And then you remember that I had told you that some methods can modify the original data while others do not. And for your program, you need to know whether the reverse method modifies the original array or if it creates a copy of the array which is then reversed. How do you know? The best way is to experiment. So you can fire up your IRB and then do this follows. You could create a variable called, let's say, x, put inside there an array of 1, 2, 3, 4, then try out x.reverse, and then look what x contains. And you'll see that x contains the original array, which proves that the reverse method does not modify the original array, but rather it creates a new reversed array. In fact, when preparing this screencast, I didn't actually know myself which methods did what when I created the script for this. I opened up IRB myself to see which method did what. The moral of the story is that experimentation is the best way to discover everything you want to know about programming. We'll see this come up time and time again throughout these screencasts. Let's experiment just a little bit more. Now strings also have a delete method. Let's demonstrate that. Let's take a string called hello and then delete the letter H from it. And you'll see that it returns hello without the H. So let's find out whether the original hello string was modified or if it's just returning a new string that does not contain the letter H. So we can do that simply. Let's take a variable, let's say we'll call it s, and s equals hello. Then we'll do s.delete the letter h. And now let's look inside s. And we'll see that it returns the original string of hello. Now that's actually pretty crazy, because the delete method of an array, as we saw, modified the original array, while the delete method of a string does not modify the original string. Although this inconsistency is unfortunate, that's the way things are sometimes with computer languages. Programming languages are man-made and are not always perfect, and this is a great example of that. However, you can be on top of it all if you just try and see for yourself what each method does. Just remember that there's no harm at all in experimentation. You're not going to break your computer, and if IRB tells you that you get some error, that does not mean you pulled down the internet. Everything is just fine. Trying things hands-on is the best way to learn, and I encourage you to do that at all times. Thanks for watching. Anyone can learn to code.